All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to proceed to the next session. Another panel discussion titled From Southeast Asia to the World, New Consumer Trends. Of course, we'll be getting a lot of fascinating insights as well. So we are very much looking forward to this next panel discussion. Our moderator will be Yinwei Lian. Our speakers, Jackson Au, founder of Mighty Jaxx. Richard Xia, co-founder and CEO of Novelship. And also Leon Fu, co-founder and CEO of Morning. Let's welcome the moderator and the speakers of the next panel discussion, once again titled From Southeast Asia to the World, New Consumer Trends.
Hi everyone, good to see you all here together. Today we are very fortunate to have 3 founders of consumer companies with global sales. They are here to share with us consumer trends and talk a bit about how, as Southeast Asian founders, we can expand and sell globally to the world. And to start off, I'll invite each of them to give a short introduction about themselves. Maybe we can start off with Leon.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Leon. I'm the co-founder of Morning. I believe there's a booth outside that has our coffee and a coffee machine. I started the company about 3 years ago. We developed an ecosystem that we believe that can deliver the world's best coffee capsule experience at home. There are 2 things that we did. We made an IoT capsule machine. It's kind of like the Dyson of coffee machines. We are selling that to about 25 different countries. We recently opened an office in UK and soon to be in Australia. What's so special about this machine? With this machine, with one touch of a button, you'll be drinking roaster design recipes. And what we also did is we paired that with an ecosystem or marketplace where we curate the world's best coffee capsules on drinkmorning.com and then sell it all over the world. What we are doing and really doing is that we believe that convenience and quality can coexist, and we are taking some of these roaster stories and coffee shop stories and bringing that to the rest of the world. Yeah.
Thanks, Leon. Richard?
First of all, big thanks to EV team and LP for making this event happen. It has been a blast, especially yesterday's event at the bar. It was really cool. As you can see from my very fly sneakers, you can probably guess what I do. So I'm Richard, CEO of Novelship. We are South Asia's largest sneaker marketplace. We are right now, we have business across 6 markets around the region, namely Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, and as well as Taiwan. The way it works is very simple. There's a lot of demand for very fly sneakers, as well as apparel, as well as collectibles. There are buyers and sellers dealing on our platform, and then we authenticate everything. We have 5 processing centers around the region, so we do have quite a bit of experience dealing with cross-border logistics, supply chain, which we will talk about later as well. And then every single item that's transacted on our platform has to go through one of our 5 processing centers, where we have in-brand experts to double-check everything, and only the authenticated items get through and get sent to our buyers, for which we take a cut from the buyers and sellers. So that's essentially what we do, and great to see all of you guys here.
Thanks, Richard. And Jackson?
Hey. So we just joined the EV family sometime in February. And the first time I met Wilson was he asked me to wake up at 7 a.m. and do a hike with him at MacRitchie Reservoir in Singapore. And I had to stop him halfway through just to catch my breath because I couldn't explain anymore. So when Yinwei told me that, hey, do you want to go Bali and hang with the EV family, I got worried because I thought we were going to hike. And probably I'm not going to make it. But a pleasure to be here. My name is Jackson. I'm the founder of Mighty Jaxx. Mighty Jaxx is an integrated pop culture platform, right, where we work with brand partners like Netflix, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, you name it, we worked with them before. And we create digital and physical collectibles. That is for adults who didn't quite grow up yet. And so with that, we create experiences using the IPs of the brands and the artists, and we follow them on a fan journey and be with them for the next 10, 15 years, understanding how IPs develop and what kind of products that would cater to them best. So we started in 2015, incorporated then, and as of this point, we ship to over 80 countries in the world. We have fans in many different regions. Of course, they do have different preferences of culture as well, especially in areas, geography areas like Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand. And so we look towards localizing the different culture in the region to create an affinity of the products and experiences to the fans. And that's what we do at Mighty Jaxx.
Thanks, Jackson. Okay, to kick things off, maybe you can talk a bit about how the macro backdrop is affecting consumer trends. So inflation is on the rise, asset markets are down, people have less money to spend. How is this impacting, what's your outlook on discretionary consumer spend and consumer sentiment? And do you see this impacting your respective businesses? Maybe we can start off with Jackson first.
Yeah, the hard questions first, huh? Well, because of the earlier years of the company, it's still in its growth stage, and what we could draw comparison from is probably from the pandemic, right? And what happens in the pandemic for an item like collectibles? The truth is, it gives joy and happiness to people in times of darkness and times of light. And in doing so, no matter how small that is, it fulfills a part of their life. And so through pandemic, we grew to 3x pretty much in revenue. And I think largely it's very driven by the fact that we have a wide range of product categories as well, from $10 item all the way to a $1,000 item. And so it caters to fans of different range, right? And so with that, I think moving into the next 18 months, we will continue to build on that product line of things so that it caters to the right demographic, but also to understand a little bit better that in times like this, what are they truly looking for? Like what is the thing that drives them in their everyday life? And if we understand that, we can harness that. And in that case, in a more micro situation, that would serve its purpose despite the downturn that we are looking at. And I think that is the same from our panelists as well with me.
Thanks, Jackson. And Richard, any impact on your fly sneakers?
Yeah, so for us, of course, we've been hearing about the market condition for sure. But to be honest, so far, we haven't seen any major impact in terms of our sales, in terms of the performance on the marketplaces. In fact, I think if we draw the line even earlier, I think from COVID, when the lockdown happened, since the start of COVID till probably the start of this year, we saw almost 80 to 90x growth in terms of monthly sales. And then subsequently, it has remained pretty consistent. So we have not seen any major impact. And I think why that could be the case is that, yes, I think definitely there's some impact in terms of discretionary spending. But number one, I think the market opportunity itself is large. Right, we're talking about, across the region, across the APAC region, we're probably talking about a $30 to $40 billion market in terms of sneakers, apparel, collectibles. It's a very large hobby market, and as what Jackson said, especially in times of stress and darkness, this is something that they can turn towards to get relief, right? Especially if you are working remotely under a very stressful situation. And then I think number two is that, this is still in early stages of growth. We are seeing still 15 to 20% CAGR in terms of the overall industry. So I think the minor impact there is on the overall market is still not enough to dent the overall market condition. But if I could say, the major impact more than just the market condition that we are experiencing is probably in terms of supply chain, right? Especially with the recent Russia-Ukraine war, right? We see quite a big increase in the supply chain cost, right? So that is something that is more of a challenge to us compared to any macro conditions in terms of consumer spending.
Thanks, Richard. And Leon, what are your thoughts on the impact? And maybe you can talk a bit about the supply chain issue as well.
Okay. Before I go on to the supply chain, some of you may know coffee might be recession-proof. At the end of the day, whether it's a recession, whether it's very bad inflation, people still drink coffee at home. People still drink coffee outside. But I think to our benefit, we are on the flip side because as price hike, inflation, recession comes, we see more people consuming coffee at home, less at the cafe. And so that's actually to our benefit. And I think it ties back to what Richard is saying, that I think during tough times, people do want to experience practical luxury, like elevating your essential. So we benefited from that by having better coffee more accessible, because coffee is one of those items that is considered an affordable luxury. So that benefited to us, but I think across the different markets, people wanting to feel good and spending a bit more despite the world's being very gloomy. I think that's a current trend that we also see. For the supply chain, so obviously you hear on the news about last year, everybody was suffering from the shortage of chips, ICU chips. We were not spared during those times. But what we did is we constantly actually spoke to subcons, suppliers, to make sure that, okay, we hear in the grapevine, hey, there's shortage of chips. Before it really hits the news, before it really hits Samsung, we were pre-buying some of these chips, and dollar cost averaged up. So I think one of the things that we were trying to do is make sure that we had supply, and logistically, it was a kind of nightmare last year, Q4. I think everybody was trying to ship goods around the world, especially Q4, because of Black Friday. Retail won't really change in Q4 because the saying that I always say, instead of having cash is king, having stock is king in Q4 for at least retail. So at least that's my experience with the supply chain, the chips, logistics. I don't know about you guys.
Thanks, Leon. Great planning there. And Jackson, maybe you have to deal with a global supply chain as well. How do you manage that, and how do you manage consumer satisfaction as well?
Yeah, well, you know, for most of our products, 90% of them is basically made in China. So, of course, Q4, which Leon mentioned, was just a challenging time for us. Moving into Q1 and Q2 as well, quite honestly, because we do have quite a lot of products in the pipeline. And so, when we look at the environment of which the products are in, now the next question that comes naturally is how defensible we can make it, and how can we de-risk the consolidation part of it. And so we begin to look at different countries for the ability to manufacture the products that we require. And one of them is definitely Indonesia, among other Southeast Asian countries as well. So the idea is that if we are able to get the source of origin from a different areas and also have our fulfillment centers delivered in the domestic market, then naturally that will cut down a lot of time and in tandem, the cost to be managed as well. But to do that, the sophistication of the quality and the product has to be educated, because not every region will be able to perform and create products at that level. So I think that it is necessary to have about 6 to 9 months of incubation of the skill sets that's required in this region, and give back to the community to let them level up to a level that is in a global sort of quality. And I think that that is something that we have been focusing on for the last 3 or 4 months as well. Yeah.
Thank you. And now maybe moving on. The three of you ship products to different countries in the world. So you have a very global outlook. Are there any key trends that you are seeing globally that you can share with the audience? Are there any low-hanging fruits that you think some of the founders can exploit? And are there any headwinds that people should look out for? Maybe we can start with Richard first.
Yep. So I think, first of all, from our own experience, to be honest, at the start, right, we are like a lot of South Asian founders in the sense that we are not very confident of our potential. And when we define our business, when we introduce ourselves, we usually say, oh, we are South Asia based, or we are focused on South Asia. But actually, I realized, increasingly with a globalized world, where you can reach out to essentially anywhere in the world. You can ship globally as well, right? This is no longer a constraint. So from us, when we realize this, we realize like, as long as there's a product market fit, there's a competitive advantage. South Asia-born solutions and company and businesses and brands can also go global, right? As long as there's a competitive advantage, as long as the unfulfilled demand and we can meet them competitively, we can also go global. So actually half of our business right now, like when we define ourselves, we don't just talk about it in the sense of, South Asia-based or even Asia-Pacific-based. We can, boldly define ourselves as as a global-based business. So actually half of our business already comes outside of South Asia. And I think this is also one big trend that, I see a lot of founders, already taking advantage of. And I think going forward, this is definitely one big opportunity that we can look forward to. That, South Asia-based designs, solutions, founders can also offer solutions to the world. Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. Leon?
So some of the key trends that we see, obviously, number one, sustainability, being sustainable as a brand. Number two, being authentic. People are looking at things a bit differently. Last time, luxury brands would be positioning, but now being authentic is actually quite important. The third one is very cliche. As long as something is a bit exclusive, something that's a bit sexy and cool, it still sells. But as we look at the headwinds and as we expand overseas, some of the things that we try to do or do that has been effective is, I think, talking to customers, talking to people on the ground, surveying the market, getting a bunch of indicators lagging and both leading. So you really don't want to be on the wrong side of, example, like currency risks, transfer pricing, duties and taxes as we expand overseas. So talking to these people, we make less mistakes. And the last one, given the headwinds, I think we should adjust, because, like example, we adjust our product mix to have cheaper coffee. Still very good, but cheaper. So product mix to cater. We adjust our supply chain to weather and our sales cycle to bolster the cash. So I think these are some of the things that we're doing. Yeah.
Thank you. And Jackson, anything to add?
For me, I mean, because I'm so focused on what we do, right? So I was just in New York a couple of months ago for a conference about digital content and assets. And I tell you that the environment, the people is electrifying. It's just fantastic, like the atmosphere, right? And so I think without a doubt, one of the key trends and also increasingly with a lot of fans would be the digital and physical bridge. I think, of course, all three of us do that in different capacity, but I also think that the ability to consolidate the assets of both digital and physical and of what the value it would derive to the customer, I think this is something that increasingly will be quite clear in the next 12 to 18 months. We did a test ourselves from digital natives to physical collections. We do see 60% conversion rate from there. Now, these are people who may not have bought any kind of physical product at all in real life. So this is quite a staggering conversion. I think that increasingly, like what would be the case study and model that we could blend these two kind of spaces together, it will be worth a thought into that. And I also think that a lot of these current digital companies as well, they do need to bridge into the real world experiences. So they work with agencies, they work with brand partners, right, to create in real life asset. And I think that what we do over here and our background actually provides the ability to work with them and expand what they have been focusing on. So if Leon didn't have the background in his trade, then he could not possibly come up with a hardware that would address the very right problems. And Richard and I, we just buy too much shoes, right? So that's what I think.
Thank you. We are running out of time, so maybe in closing, can I invite each of you to maybe share some gems of wisdom, maybe a one-liner on some advice for the audience to take advantage of new consumer trends or to share a bit of an outlook in the next 12 months ahead.
Here I go. Okay. So I think going back to, of course, we talk about the market condition and all that, and I think we hear about that a lot. But I think we are all, I believe most of 99% of the founders or entrepreneurs, they have a long-term vision. And we are, whether it's investors, LPs, and all that, we are all in it for the long haul. So I think beyond the short-term shock, I still have very strong confidence in the future of South Asia and, of course, the whole of Asia. So I think, first of all, I think in terms of dealing with the short-term market condition, we definitely must be very adaptable to make any changes necessary to survive. And then next, once we are able to deal with that, of course, we should also, at the same time, I think there's also a need to be not just reactive to short-term shocks, but also think about it in terms of long-term. Like, what's the long-term opportunity? Because I believe, at the end of it, you will definitely get back on track in terms of economic growth.
Thanks, Richard. Jackson?
I think this is for the founders, right? Very straightforward. Like, I think we all want to be in the same position as IDN, of course. That would be great. Well, if you don't, then hey, let's have 36 months of runway. How about that? that would be...
All right, and Leon.
I'll keep mine quite short. There's a saying, grow global and think global, but act local. I think some of these things to apply similar market knowledge, and I think please don't ignore the signs of the global economic crisis, and take into account these things as you expand overseas, because every single market is a bit different. Some markets are insulated a bit more, and the last parting words is the community piece, which they mentioned quite a bit, can be a very source good of tool to power you through these tough times with sales and backups and limited drops. I think those are very powerful things.
Thank you. Thank you for your insights. Think global, act local. It's a great way to end. All right, can I have a round of applause for our esteemed panelists, please?
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for that insightful discussion. Let's move on to the next part of this panel discussion, the presentation of the token of appreciation. Again, you all will receive a very personalized token of appreciation, a live drawing, a caricature of yourselves taken while you were doing your role as speakers right here at East Venture Summit 2022. Moving on to the next token, to our next speaker. There you go. Your best features captured, I see. And the next one. Once again, thank you for the talented artist for this highly personalized. Let's have a group photo, all the four of you together. Once again, thank you to Yinwei Lian for moderating the discussion. And thank you to our speakers, Jackson Au, founder of Mighty Jaxx, Richard Xia, co-founder and CEO of Novelship, and Leon Fu, co-founder and CEO of Morning. Thank you, gentlemen. You may return to your seats and enjoy the rest of the event.